Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tidbits on Business and Finance with me. Last year, when the COVID pandemic hit the Indian economy, what we needed was support on two fronts: monetary policy support and fiscal policy support in order to support, stabilize, and revive a shaky economy. Each of these, which is monetary policy and fiscal policy, have a different role and a different domain to play, but they must necessarily act in tandem with each other. Monetary policy is the domain of the Reserve Bank of India. It's an autonomous domain, and its purpose is to spark economic activity in the country by regulating money supply, credit supply, supply of currency, and controlling or influencing interest rates in the country, which is the cost of money. On the other hand, fiscal policy is the domain of the Government of India, and it is all about taxation and spending by the Government of India in order to influence the aggregate demand and spending in the economy. Fiscal policy directly impacts the creation of jobs, the creation of household income, and thus influences spending and investment in the economy. It is all about growth finally. Both of them, which is monetary policy and fiscal policy, have common objectives. The common objectives are both of them together pursue growth in the country. They help to create jobs, they stabilize wages and prices in the economy, and thus they are required to act in tandem with close coordination with each other. Each influences the other, each supports the other, and is actually not required to work in isolation. In 2020, when COVID hit the economy and there was a lockdown, what we saw was a massive contraction of the economy. At that time, we needed monetary policy and fiscal policy support coming together. But what we saw was something quite different. The Government of India indulged in mere optics and specious cosmetics as far as fiscal policy, fiscal stimulus was concerned. It came up with a fiscal stimulus that truly never was, because what the government claimed never really came as far as the ground reality was concerned. And while the government took a backseat, while it indulged in these optics and cosmetics, it left it to the Reserve Bank of India to do the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting by way of monetary policy initiatives without any parallel support, any matching support coming from the Government of India. So what were the monetary policy initiatives that the Reserve Bank took last year in order to battle the COVID crisis? The first thing that it did was to cut and prune interest rates in a substantial manner, hoping that loans will become cheap across the board and that borrowers will be encouraged to borrow and invest and spend such that the economic cycle will be triggered off. While doing that and while hoping that loans will take off in a big way, the Reserve Bank then ensured that there was adequate and abundant supply of money and credit and liquidity in the economy. They were all augmented in a big way. The RBI then provided direct financial support to those sectors which needed it the most, and which is the NBFC sector, the housing finance sector, the real estate sector, and also the rural sector. While doing all this, the RBI made it clear that its policy outlook remains accommodative. Accommodative as long as durable growth comes back to the Indian economy. So while the RBI did its share of heavy lifting, the government did not. The RBI's monetary policy initiatives failed to get fiscal support from the Government of India. What was needed was a fiscal stimulus from the government such that money went directly in the hands of the consumer and the producer. And if that was done, then all the monetary policy initiatives of the RBI by providing money, by cutting down the cost of money would have succeeded. The government did not do that. The government perhaps underestimated the impact of COVID, and it must have thought that the monetary policy initiatives of the Reserve Bank will be enough in order to ensure a revival, recovery, and recalibration of the Indian economy. And thus, it did not come out with its matching, supporting fiscal policy to see that the monetary policy of the Reserve Bank succeed. Resultantly, the Reserve Bank's initiatives did not succeed. They did not bear the desired fruit. And today what we see is a number of initiatives of the Reserve Bank have failed. What we are seeing today is a struggling RBI, an RBI which is at a dead end and which is on many fronts. And what are they? The first place where the Reserve Bank's initiatives failed was in respect of the interest rate cuts. Interest rates were cut hoping that loans will take off in a big way. Spending, lending, investment will take off in a big way. And that did not happen. India today has reluctant lenders and unwilling borrowers. And that's because the overall risk perception of the economy is very high. Nobody wants to borrow and no lender wants to risk his money. The onus on ensuring that the risk perception is not so high is on the government of India, and the government failed to do that. And thus, even if the Reserve Bank cut interest rates, it did not succeed in ensuring that loans took off in a big way. The second place where the Reserve Bank failed was in the reverse repo rates. It got down its reverse repo rates to 3.35%. The purpose was to ensure that the banks lend and that they do not come and deposit their surplus money with the Reserve Bank of India. The banks failed to do that. The banks did not lend. The banks have been depositing their surplus money with the RBI, unwilling to lend. And today, the Reserve Bank is sitting on surplus funds of 7 lakh crores of the banks, unwilling to lend. Thus, its reverse repo initiative of bringing down the reverse repo to a rate of just 3.35% also failed. The other struggle that is there of the RBI today is on inflation control. Inflation has been elevated, rising and untamed. WPI today is at 7.4%, which is an 8.5-year high. And the increase in inflation has been all because of the government's failure to control it itself. Inflation remains high on account of food and fuel, both of which are governed by government policies. Despite India having a record food grain production, food prices have been rising and fuel prices are also at a record high. It is these two which are undoing any initiatives of the RBI to control inflation. The next struggle of the RBI today is on the rupee. The rupee has been depreciating against the dollar, and the depreciation is because the macro fundamentals of the economy are weak. It is because of that the rupee has been depreciating, and that again is because of government failures. The forex reserves are at an all-time high, but the rupee will continue to deteriorate. It is the weakness of the economy which is causing it. The next struggle of the Reserve Bank today is on account of raising money for the government. With the macros weakening, with inflation remaining high, with COVID coming back, the RBI is struggling to raise funds for the government. That again is because of reasons beyond its control. The other struggles and failed initiatives of the Reserve Bank are reflected on various other fronts. They are reflected in the unresolved NPA banking crisis of India. They are reflected in the poor regulation and failure of banks. They are reflected in consumer and business confidence being at an all-time low. And of course, in economic activity not taking off despite monetary policy initiatives being announced by the Reserve Bank from time to time. The larger picture that we see today is that the Reserve Bank's policy seems to have lost efficacy. The RBI as an institution seems to be struggling and seems to be at a dead end. And that is seen clearly in the failed initiatives of the Reserve Bank on various key fronts such as inflation control, the management of the rupee, the raising of debt for the government, and of course, triggering of lending and borrowing in the banking system of India. In the last MPC meeting, we saw that the MPC had nothing new to offer and it was itself in a wait and watch mode. The fact of the matter is that if today the Reserve Bank seems to be at a dead end, then it has itself to blame. Over the years, the Reserve Bank has willingly let its autonomy be eroded. Today, it has been eager to do whatever the government wants to do, and in the process, it has diluted its independence, it has diluted its autonomy and professional objectivity, which are very important to ensure that the Reserve Bank policies do not come to a dead end. The RBI has compromised its domain on its own, and because of that, we are seeing that there is no healthy professional friction and difference of opinion which we very often see between the Ministry of Finance and the Reserve Bank of India. And that is the reason today that the bank has been struggling. The best evidence of this we saw last year. The Reserve Bank kept doing all the heavy lifting and the government did not play its role, and the Reserve Bank never did object. The RBI should have ensured that while it was doing all the heavy lifting, the government also needed to play its part, and it just did not do that. That to us showed a struggling Reserve Bank, a Reserve Bank with an eroded autonomy, and no wonder the monetary policy initiatives did not deliver. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Hello everyone. HW News English is 2 years old now. When we started this venture, we promised ourselves one thing, that news should remain free, because right to know is the right of every Indian. But to keep news free for everyone, we need support from some of you. And thus we have rolled out membership on our YouTube channel HW News English. But mind you, the membership is completely voluntary. The programs that we were doing earlier, that we are doing now, will continue to remain free. First level is a basic level. Here, you can be our supporter by paying Rs 199 per month. This membership gives you certain perks and benefits. The perks include unique badges in front of your name, a live show from Mr. Sujit Nair and from Mr. Akhilesh Bhargava per month for our members. You can also vote in some exclusive members-only polls. Now the second level is Super Supporter. Here you can be our Super Supporter by paying Rs 3,999 per month. This membership will include every perk that comes with basic level. Additionally, our Super Supporters can be a part of a WhatsApp group where we can have discussions and suggestions on various topics. The second perk includes a gift pack with our merchandise. And the third perk is a Google Meet with Mr. Sujit Nair, where you can join the meet and ask your questions to Mr. Nair face to face. Lastly, if you like, we would give a shout out to our super supporters in our programs. So, hope to see you soon with our badges.